just looking around and and all these I found this website called AI Bottlenecks. Every one of the little analog pieces of the supply chain's ripping higher. So memory's ripping higher. I don't know, Robert and I love to go back and forth privately about this whole thing and whether they get a return on investment. And talking about Ed Zitron, who loves to poke holes in it, but there's a whole problem with the physical commodity world ripping like this, and then thus labor prices ripping higher that could just undermine this whole thing, I think.
Yeah, no one knows what the true cost to serve the market is. We just know that there's heavy subsidies from equity that people are willing to incinerate, right? So you don't know what AI demand is if you had to pay a fair price to the vendor plus profit plus interest on the debt they use to build the data center, right? So some people think it could be 3 or 4 times what they're charging people today. Some people think it's 10 times. Raise the price per token 10 times and see what happens to token demand. That's all I'm wondering.
I mean, like the cost of tokens does keep dropping, but then you keep putting these new models out that are expensive. Open source is becoming more reliable for a lot of projects, but those don't make any money. It's a weird look. It's very resemblant of the total market, total economy. It's just I don't remember a market that felt this messy. And it's weird because we're sitting at all-time highs in stocks, but you look around and there's just a lot of issues, and the equity market is so thin. There's been these charts going around about how narrow the breadth is, bad breath, if you will, bad breath with the D in there. Yeah, it's a strange market. Anyway, Kevin, why don't you lead us and take some of the narrative out of it and just tell us what the price is doing.
Well, talk about weird markets. Let's go to MicroStrategy, MST, so strategy and Bitcoin, because I was watching a show and they said, and there was a headline, strategy selling Bitcoin, and it wasn't a question mark. And I go, and I did a triple take because this is Michael Saylor, hold on for dear life, hodl, never sell Bitcoin, and I thought that this chart was going to look a lot worse on that, and I thought it was a joke, or I thought it was April Fool's, and no, because of their preferred dividends and their debt obligations, they're going to be selling some Bitcoin. They haven't said they've sold any yet. And Saylor uses this term, we want to inoculate the market like it's a public service. So if you want to see weird, you have, Saylor talking about selling Bitcoin for the first time pretty much ever. Sold a little bit for tax loss harvesting in the past. But I'm just amazed that this stock doesn't look worse. Winter is the inverse ETF. It's not a perfect one. But that isn't rising yet. And Bitcoin itself isn't doing a hell of a lot. And I'm curious to see how this inoculation works. I don't have a position here yet, but I'm just kind of shaking my head that you can have the grandmaster of Bitcoin maximalist say he's selling, and the stock doesn't care, and Bitcoin doesn't care. So I don't know what to make of it yet. I just kind of bring it up to stay tuned. But I'm watching this. I got my popcorn out and I'm watching to see what happens with this. I don't think they can take any significant selling from strategy, but we'll see. Are you hearing anything?
No, it's weird because Bitcoin has been completely forgotten about during this period with all the AI stuff. I think, it's very much a market where, and it's been like this for a while. I feel like if you think about the post-COVID market, it's really like a chasing the hot toy market. Whatever's the hot thing is where the money goes. Then we get these Christmas tree of death, like emergent properties, and we see those more than ever now. And I have to tell you that I don't think it's kind of like private credit, right? Like people aren't talking about private credit, but those issues didn't go away. Commercial real estate issues didn't go away, and I don't think strategies issues have gone away. So I think you're like right to notice that, but at the same time, liquidity is pumping. So Bitcoin and this are getting some sympathy bid, but it's not as though we're close. With the market at all time highs, Bitcoin all time high was 126, I believe,
Yeah,
125. Yeah. So
yeah.
we're still 35% off the all time high. So I kind of tend to think about markets when they have a rally with the broad market but don't show leadership, that those are fake moves. If that makes sense. Like
Hmm.
that they're going up because the market's going up, liquidity's pumping in, but there's not actually people who want to be in that. Now, one caveat I saw in my Bloomberg chat, one of the chats this morning, this Clarity Act is being discussed in the Senate right now. So that would be something to keep in mind, because that gives a kind of a framework for crypto, and that could be a catalyst that could give this stuff a bid in a more serious fundamental manner. But
Okay.
I mean, look, again, I'm not the crypto expert, just that's something to just point out, I guess.
Yeah, and that's so funny because I thought the Clarity Act had already passed. So that's how how much attention I've been paying here. But I can't wait to see this where he says we sold 500,000 Bitcoin and let's see what happens. And if the price goes up, and that's going to be the ultimate bullish signal, because I think that's going to be an air pocket. And frankly, I'm surprised that the threat of them selling hasn't driven Bitcoin lower. So I'm a little bit impressed with how well it's holding in, given that news. So again, I don't think there are Bitcoin experts. By the way, I haven't found any yet. Sailor was one, and then you can look at this chart. So
Well, what qualifies as an expert? I mean, I think there's people who understand the network
the
and the
guy with the
math.
suitcase. That's the old phrase,
Well,
anyway.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's very reflexive, and it's like gold, where there's no underlying value to it, um, in other than what people are willing to pay for it.
Hi, I'm David Maris. If you like what you just heard, we've tracked every single pick we make on the show, every ticker, every thesis, every entry price, over 1,100 picks and counting. We put it together in a free report with our top 10 performers, the reasoning behind each one, and a preview of our full dashboard. If you want access, the link is in the description.